Hello, this is Winston Cunningham. It is August 26th in 2024, and I'd like to talk about how limitations are appeased. When I was growing up, my mom, who was a devout Christian and in the Baptist church, and she really lived what she believed, and I understood that. There was a verse that she would read to me pretty regular, and it says, "I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me." And that phrase is pretty well ingrained. And from the understanding that it presents, there was at some point, somebody or groups of people said that, well, the word which is out of place here, because we know talking about Jesus, and so we need to change that from which to who. So this is how our limitations are appeased, because rather than doing the work it takes to expand the consciousness so that the original concept can be misunderstood, you go with what belief you have, and to prove or to hang on to your limitations of that belief, you insist on change. They must have had the words wrong, because this is what I see, this is what I believe, and the words need to be different. So, and you'll see that if you watch closely, you'll see it happening through all parts of society, where someone will want to change the words to describe the way they see it, but their way is severely limited. And so at the School of Metaphysics, I learned to take the approach, and I needed the School of Metaphysics because now when I was growing up in the church, they would say, well, this is the way it is, this is the way it's supposed to be, but they didn't explain things the way I needed to hear it, because they didn't know that. They were going on belief only rather than what they could prove through their experience. Well, we're just supposed to do this, we're supposed to do that, we're not. That was not enough for me. But I've noticed that, and I go to the YMCA every day, and in the pool area there's a blackboard, and somebody puts a Bible verse on there, and in most cases, the Bible verse reflects their beliefs rather than the original idea or the picture that was presented. And that's why I love the School of Metaphysics so much. They taught me not only the structure of mind, but language of mind, so that I could see how to get pictures from the words. And the greatest misunderstanding of all came from the phrase that I'll come back to it in a minute. I want to stick to this because from changing the word from I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me to who strengtheneth me. See, there's two separate pictures, and I want to explain the original picture, the way I could see it through language of mind. Because there's the I am, which is the light that is us, the living God that is our beginning and the end as well. Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I am expresses through the superconscious mind, the heaven portion of us, as spirit, and it houses the first level of mind houses the Christ consciousness. So we inherited all of the know-how and all of the capabilities to accomplish pulling forward into our conscious existence the Christ consciousness. So if people are assuming that it's all talking about Jesus, then they're missing the point. It's talking about I am. And the Christ consciousness, the second coming of Christ, is not Jesus showing up and saying, hey, I'm here, boo. You're missing the point. Jesus represents, in language of mind, Jesus represents the knowing quality. And he replaced John the Baptist, who represent believing. So believing was insufficient. So here come, now believing, it took believing to introduce the knowing quality. But then the knowing quality replaced just the act of believing. And so most of the planet is still limited by their beliefs. And it's I want to say funny, but it's not funny, it's sad, that most wars are fought over this concept. We believe this and you believe, and I saw it in just growing up. You'll see one church, there'll be a group of people, and part of that group starts to believe a little bit different than a part of the group, so they just split off and make their own church. And that's why there's so many churches all over the place. That's the way it happens. It happens by disagreement, and that's more productive than wars. But wars are just stupid, and but they are a reflection of where people are, because that confusion, that conflict, is what is an example, is a reflection of what's going on in here. And so if there's confusion here, there's going to be confusion here. Okay. But I can do all things. I is awareness. I is who I am, the recognition of who I am, because when I can identify something, I can say, yes, I have that. I am. So I am expresses through the superconscious mind as spirit. And as I say, the first level of consciousness is the Christ consciousness. Everything you need to know about yourself is already there. But as the energy progressed outward, by the time it got through the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, there was so much diffusion, we forgot where we came from. And so that's why it's a foreign idea now to connect with something that's actually true. But it's all in here. You just have to prove it through your own experience. I can do all things. Nothing is impossible. Limitations are built by choice. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right. We were given the choice from the beginning, so it's all been all our shooting match. It's not somebody. Well, why does the Lord do this, and why does the Lord? Well, that ain't the way it works. It's by your choice and by our group choice that causes things to move as they move. That's what it is. I can do all things through Christ, the Christ consciousness, which strengtheneth me. My real strength is in what I've known all along from the beginning, that I've moved far enough away from it to where I can deny it and refuse because it doesn't match my beliefs. So I want you to, what I want doesn't matter. It's what you want that matters. If you want to know the truth about how the scriptures have changed to reflect where people are in their beliefs, then just look at pick up a copy of an old Bible that was written 50 or 100 years ago and look at the verses like I've just, and see how it's changed. But that change reflects where people are in their understanding. It doesn't necessarily, the truth is only reflected through your experience. So, I can do all things through Christ, my capability, that strengtheneth me. I have the will if I just exercise it. I mean, to learn to use the will is to, in language of mine, a rock represents the will. Peter also represents the will. If you remember, Jesus said to Peter, "You are my rock, and on this rock I will build my church." Now, church is not a group of people or a building or an organization even. It describes in Revelation, in language of mind, it describes the energy and the movement that needs to take place in each level of mind in order for each of us to progress toward the Christ consciousness. The second coming of Christ is when we achieve that awareness of what we had to start with. So we're the dog chasing the tail. It's amusing, but it's sad. So I can do all things through Christ, which, not who, which strengtheneth me. The strength that I had from the beginning is something that I need to reconnect with. And Jesus was teaching that. He was not, when he was saying I am, go back through every time where he said I am. And consider the fact that he was not talking about himself, but he was talking about the I am, which is the beginning of you and him and me. Look at it from that perspective, and so at least consider that point of view. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. Me, remember I told you the the pronouns are very revealing, because me represents the learning that comes from the experience that you can identify as you. That's me. I understand that. That's me. So look at another verse a little bit differently. I am, the Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end, the innermost part of me. I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father, which is the superconscious mind, where the Spirit is located and where the Christ consciousness is embedded. No one comes to the Father but by me. My me represents the results of your experience. So it's talking about you. The whole book, the Bible, or any other great spiritual work, if you look at it in language of mind, is the story of you, where you came from, where you're going, and where you are in the process of getting there. And it'll tell you, everyone in the Bible represents a part of you. And the changes you see taking place in the Bible, if you look at it in language of mind, it's talking about the evolutionary development of us as man. Man meaning man actually represents the subconscious mind. But I won't go into that at the moment. I encourage you to go to the School of Metaphysics, som.org, look at the book list, and there's a many books that talk about the language of mind, and specifically the language of mind as it relates to seeing the Scripture. And there's a lot of writing available, and of course it's going to be a lot easier for you to see language of mind through the Scriptures if you put in some work with your dreams, because it's the same language. And once you understand how your subconscious mind or your soul is talking to you through dreams, then when you start to read the scripture, you'll begin to see the pictures that was the original purpose of the writing. So be careful that you don't limit yourself by getting caught up in the words, understanding each word. Break it down and see what it looks like in picture language, but through some experience with your dream. And there's a program put on by the Branch School of Metaphysics in Palatine, which is just north of Chicago, every week, Wednesday, 6:30 Central Time. But join in and at least listen to how the soul communicates through each person with dreams. And once you begin to understand that, then you're open to understanding what the scriptures are really saying, not what people told you it said, and what people drummed in, trying to beat you over the head, wanting you to believe this, and if you say these few words, you're home free and all that stuff. Well, it just builds limitation and keeps you from looking. All the answers come from looking within, and it comes through your experience. I know this because I've been doing it for the last 38 years. But when I talk to somebody directly, or a group of people directly, if they're hanging on to their beliefs and being defensive about it, they've just closed their ears, and the way they do that is because what I'm saying, what I'm describing as truth as I see it, does not match their beliefs, and they're hanging on to their beliefs regardless of what else. They're closed off to hearing the truth. And Jesus said it very clearly, the truth will set you free. It's not rocket science. I'm Winston Cunningham, and I would encourage you to not accept anything I said, but be curious. Now, curiosity is not enough. You've got to put in the work. And this is something that religion, I grew up in the church, and they said, your works don't do nothing for you. Well, that's crazy. It takes the work. And when I described what me represents as a result of your experience, that's also what mercy means. Mercy means a relief from the experience. When you experience something over and over, that's indicating something you need to become aware of. And when you become aware of it, you no longer need the pain of it constantly coming at you. So there's relief or mercy. And so you experience a little bit more of what is me. No charge for this. I'm Winston Cunningham. Have a good day. Thank you.